On 6 July 1945, Dwight D. Eisenhower stood quietly in Frankfurt, listening to the distant engines. Knowing the war had changed him, he wasn't celebrating victory yet. Instead, he was remembering the faces of soldiers, the maps stained with loss, and the silence that followed every order. In that moment, the Supreme Commander felt older than his years, burdened by choices made across continents, fully aware that peace itself would judge him. The world saw a calm, composed general. Newspapers praised his smile, but behind it stood months of strain, countless sleepless nights. Europe lay broken around him, cities burned and emptied, millions displaced and waiting, all for decisions made far above them. Eisenhower had risen not through brilliance alone, but through patience and trust, balancing the egos of famous commanders while holding fragile alliances together. This story doesn't begin with medals or parades. It begins with doubt and responsibility, carried quietly by one man. From his Kansas roots to global command, his journey mirrored America's rise, imperfect, costly, and shaped by war. As armies waited for final orders and civilians prayed for an ending, Eisenhower prepared for peace, knowing that victory was only the beginning. The general who led America to victory stood at history's edge, uncertain of his legacy, certain of sacrifice, and bound to the weight of consequence. Across the Atlantic, leaders watched him closely. Allies trusted his steady hand, enemies feared his coordination, and soldiers followed his voice without question. He understood that victory in Europe did not end suffering. It merely changed its shape, shifting the burden onto rebuilding nations. Frankfurt's streets echoed with the footsteps of occupation, reminders of power and restraint, lessons learned that Eisenhower carried forward. Every command he issued weighed lives and futures, demanded compromises among rivals, and tested his quiet authority under relentless pressure. Beneath the uniform stood a man shaped by failure, disciplined by responsibility, and driven by duty, far beyond personal glory. This opening chapter doesn't begin with triumph. It begins with reflection and consequence. At the moment victory arrived for the world. To understand how Eisenhower reached this point, we must return to earlier days, when leadership was untested and fragile. The path ahead reveals ambition and restraint, courage and calculation, all woven into a single command under immense stakes. Our story now moves backward, toward a young officer learning patience far from headlines and glory before destiny called. On 15 August 1915, a young Dwight Eisenhower paced a dusty Texas parade ground. Far from war, far from destiny, he was assigned to training duties, not battle, watching others depart for Europe, feeling ambition mingle with frustration. America had not yet entered the Great War, but Eisenhower studied maps and manuals, imagining conflicts beyond drills. At Fort Sam Houston, he learned patience, shaping recruits, managing routines, and understanding that armies are built slowly, deliberately. This period forged his discipline, not through combat glory, but through repetition, failure, and quiet observation. Eisenhower learned that leadership meant listening first, commanding later, balancing firmness with respect, even under boredom and monotony. While newspapers glorified battlefield heroes, he absorbed logistics and coordination, skills unseen yet decisive. The absence of combat haunted him, yet it sharpened his mind, forcing him to master preparation over impulse. By 19 July 1918, he trained tank crews, envisioning armored warfare, while Europe led without him. He watched machines replace horses, strategy evolve rapidly, and command become more complex, demanding adaptability. These lessons settled deep, teaching him that wars are won before battles begin. Through planning and trust, his marriage to Mamie anchored him, offering stability amid uncertainty, a reminder of life beyond the uniform. Eisenhower's peers sometimes mocked his lack of frontline experience. Unaware he was building a broader vision, he observed personalities carefully, learning how ambition clashes with cooperation, a lesson future alliances would test. The First World War ended without him firing a shot, leaving him restless but profoundly prepared. Peace brought cuts and stagnation, yet Eisenhower stayed, studying, waiting, believing opportunity favors endurance. This era shaped his humility, grounding his confidence, teaching him restraint before authority arrived. As years passed quietly, the world shifted again toward another war, larger and darker. Eisenhower would soon face choices that demanded everything he had learned. From these overlooked beginnings, on 10 September 1933, Eisenhower arrived in Washington, assigned to General Fox Connor, entering a sharper, more complex world. Connor was brilliant and demanding, teaching strategy through conversation, challenging assumptions, sharpening Eisenhower's judgment. Inside quiet offices, amid growing global instability, Eisenhower absorbed lessons about coalitions, patience, and restraint. Connor warned him about Europe's fragility, predicting another war, shaped by pride and unresolved vengeance. These talks replaced textbooks, grounding theory in reality, forcing Eisenhower to think beyond tactics. He learned that winning allies mattered more than winning arguments, a lesson forged through listening and observation. By 12 March 1935, Eisenhower followed Douglas MacArthur, traveling to the Philippines, entering a world of colonial uncertainty. MacArthur was dramatic and domineering, demanding loyalty, inspiring awe, and testing Eisenhower's composure. Serving under him required diplomacy, managing egos daily, while learning the subtle art of command presence. Eisenhower watched charisma influence armies, realizing authority must balance confidence and cooperation. The Pacific setting revealed vulnerability, exposed logistics, limited resources, and the complexity of strategy. As global tensions rose, fascism spread across continents. Democracies hesitated and preparation lagged. Eisenhower quietly studied reports, tracking German rearmament, sensing time narrowing. By 1 September 1939, war erupted again, confirming Connor's warnings and shaking assumptions worldwide. Eisenhower returned stateside, carrying experience unseen by the public yet invaluable. Promotions came slowly, yet responsibility grew, as planners searched for adaptable, calm leaders. He worked long hours on contingency plans, learning inter-service compromise under relentless pressure. The world was sliding toward total war, and Eisenhower stood ready, though the spotlight had yet to find him. On 7 December 1941, Eisenhower read the telegram in Washington, revealing the war finally claimed him. Pearl Harbor burned across headlines. Shock rippled through offices, and planning turned urgent overnight. America needed leaders who could organize chaos, coordinate allies, and act decisively. Eisenhower worked without pause, drafting strategies, linking Army and Navy under mounting pressure. His calm impressed superiors, especially George Marshall, who valued steadiness over showmanship. By 14 February 1942, Marshall summoned Eisenhower, offering responsibility few could imagine. He was promoted rapidly, bypassing senior officers, thrust into global planning roles. Eisenhower understood this leap carried risk, envy, and relentless scrutiny. Assigned to oversee European operations, he faced competing national agendas, fragile trust, and the urgency of war. British leaders tested him immediately, cautious, proud, and wary of the inexperienced American officer. Eisenhower listened more than he spoke, earning confidence through restraint and quiet authority. He coordinated early operations in North Africa, balancing Churchill's caution with American impatience. Every decision weighed timing against readiness, ambition against reality. On 8 November 1942, Operation Torch began, America's first major ground offensive. Landings were chaotic, resistance unpredictable, and mistakes costly. Eisenhower absorbed criticism, shielding subordinates, learning leadership under fire. Success came unevenly, teaching humility and adaptation. Allied cooperation strained, yet survived under Eisenhower's mediation. As North Africa stabilized, he prepared for greater challenges, aware that Europe awaited. On 19 February 1943, Eisenhower faced disaster in Tunisia as American lines collapsed under German assault. The Battle of Kasserine Pass exposed inexperience, confusion, and costly errors, shaking Allied confidence. Eisenhower felt the weight personally, knowing leadership meant owning failure, not deflecting blame. He resisted panic, reorganized commands, and demanded accountability while preserving unity. George Patton was brought forward, aggressive, controversial, and reshaping American forces rapidly. Eisenhower balanced Patton's fire with caution, understanding extremes could destroy cohesion. Every adjustment tested relationships, revealing Eisenhower's talent for managing rivals. By 13 May 1943, North Africa was secured, but lessons were brutal. Allied leaders debated next moves, clashing over Italy, timing, and risk. Eisenhower again became mediator, aligning British caution with American urgency. The invasion of Sicily followed, complex and dangerous, exposing further command tensions. Patton's ambition and Montgomery's pride collided, threatening coordination. Eisenhower intervened quietly, enforcing discipline and preventing public rupture. When Patton struck a soldier, Eisenhower confronted him privately, choosing restraint over spectacle. This decision haunted him, criticized later yet preserved operational focus. Italy's campaign dragged. Terrain and weather-consuming lives, momentum slowed. By winter 1943, he prepared to leave the Mediterranean, summoned to a larger task. Europe's liberation demanded scale unseen, planning unprecedented. Eisenhower was chosen again, to lead and to bear consequences. On 20 January 1944, Eisenhower arrived in London, assuming command of Allied forces under immense expectation. Operation Overlord loomed ahead, demanding precision, patience, and unity across nations and egos. Eisenhower inherited complex plans, fragile morale, and commanders with competing visions. Weather, tides, and intelligence shaped every conversation, turning calendars into weapons. He listened to Montgomery's confidence, balanced Bradley's caution, and contained Patton's impatience. Every meeting carried tension, masked by professionalism, driven by urgency. Eisenhower knew delay risked momentum, haste risked catastrophe. As spring approached, German defenses hardened. The Atlantic Wall bristling, uncertainty deepened. On 4 June 1944, storms battered the Channel, grounding aircraft and threatening the invasion. Commanders debated fiercely, weighing forecasts and fate. Eisenhower retreated briefly, writing a note accepting full blame should the landings fail. This private act revealed leadership's loneliness, unseen by history books. On 6 June 1944, he gave the order, trusting imperfect information and human courage. The day unfolded in chaos, beaches soaked with sacrifice, plans unraveling under fire. Yet persistence prevailed, footholds held at terrible cost. Eisenhower monitored reports relentlessly, absorbing losses, refusing despair. By nightfall, Allied forces remained ashore, the turning point secured. Victory was not yet certain, but momentum shifted, irreversible. Eisenhower understood the invasion defined him, yet the hardest choices still lay ahead. On 20 August 1944, Eisenhower watched Paris erupt in celebration while the war still demanded blood. Liberation thrilled civilians, yet stretched supply lines, exposing dangerous vulnerabilities. Eisenhower faced competing strategies: advance rapidly or secure flanks first. Patton pushed east aggressively. Montgomery demanded priority, and tempers flared constantly. Eisenhower mediated again, aware that rivalry could fracture momentum. Fuel shortages slowed armor, turning victory into logistical struggle. German resistance stiffened unexpectedly, regrouping behind rivers and fortifications. On 17 September 1944, Operation Market Garden launched, ambitious and risky. Eisenhower approved it reluctantly, hoping for a swift breakthrough despite uncertainty. Airborne troops dropped deep, bridges contested fiercely, and plans unraveled under resistance. The operation failed to secure the Rhine, costing lives and delaying the advance. Eisenhower absorbed criticism, knowing leadership meant accountability. Winter approached harshly, grounding air support and straining morale. Then on 16 December 1944, German forces struck in the Ardennes, launching a surprise offensive. The Battle of the Bulge tested Allied resilience, communication, and resolve. Eisenhower coordinated responses rapidly, shifting armies, empowering commanders. He granted Patton freedom to maneuver, trusting judgment under pressure. Allied lines bent but held, sacrifice immense, determination unbroken. By January 1945, the German offensive collapsed. Initiative was lost permanently. Eisenhower prepared the final push. Knowing the end approached, yet losses continued. On 20 April 1945, Eisenhower reviewed intelligence reports, choosing restraint over symbolic conquest. Berlin lay ahead, but Soviet armies closed faster and politics shadowed strategy. Eisenhower decided to halt at the Elbe, avoiding needless casualties and respecting Allied agreements. This choice spared lives, yet sparked debate about pride and power. As Allied forces advanced, camps emerged, revealing horrors beyond imagination. Eisenhower ordered documentation, forcing witnesses to see truth to prevent denial. The liberation of concentration camps haunted commanders and soldiers alike. Victory now carried moral responsibility, not celebration alone. German resistance crumbled, surrender inevitable, cities surrendered, flags fell. On 7 May 1945, Germany capitulated, ending the war in Europe. Eisenhower accepted surrender calmly, aware millions still mourned. The continent lay devastated, trust shattered, futures uncertain. Occupation duties began immediately, demanding discipline and restraint. Eisenhower emphasized order, justice, and rebuilding, resisting revenge. His leadership shifted from combat to governance, equally challenging. Across Europe, displaced people searched for homes, families, meaning. Eisenhower coordinated relief efforts, balancing resources, urgency, and politics. As peace settled unevenly, new tensions emerged, shaping the post-war world. The general now faced judgment, not from enemies, but from history. On 6 July 1945, Eisenhower prepared to leave Europe, carrying memories heavier than his luggage. Parades and praise followed him, yet his thoughts remained with graves and ruined towns. America celebrated victory, but Eisenhower understood that peace required vigilance and humility. He returned home a national symbol, yet resisted personal glorification. As Army Chief of Staff, he faced demobilization, millions returning, institutions shrinking. Balancing gratitude with discipline tested leadership anew. Eisenhower emphasized readiness, warning that future threats would differ. Nuclear weapons changed warfare forever, altering command responsibility. He supported international cooperation, learning from wartime alliances. By 19 December 1948, he accepted the presidency of Columbia University, shifting arenas. There he focused on education, shaping minds, preventing future conflict. Political leaders sought his counsel, recognizing his moral authority. Despite reluctance, calls for public service grew louder. Cold War tensions escalated, demanding steady leadership. Eisenhower weighed duty against desire for private life. In January 1953, he took the presidential oath, burdened by history. His wartime experience shaped restraint, caution, and long vision. The general became a statesman, carrying lessons of sacrifice. Victory had defined him, but responsibility followed forever. On 20 January 1961, Dwight D. Eisenhower stood beneath winter skies, delivering farewell words shaped by war. His voice was calm, measured, warning of power and imbalance born from hard experience. He spoke not as a politician, but as a soldier who understood consequences. The military-industrial complex he named reflected lessons learned from total war. Eisenhower believed strength required restraint and leadership demanded foresight. Looking back, historians saw a commander who balanced egos, nations, and ideals. He avoided reckless glory, choosing coalition over domination, patience over impulse. Critics questioned missed opportunities, yet acknowledged lives spared. His decisions shaped post-war Europe, NATO, and America's global presence. Eisenhower retired quietly, returning to reflection far from command rooms. On 20 March 1969, he died, leaving debates unresolved, his legacy enduring. Graves across Europe marked the costs of victory, tied to his orders. Yet peace held longer than expected, guided by the restraint he championed. The general who led America to victory remained human, flawed, deliberate. History remembers not perfection, but responsibility carried without illusion. His story ends where it began, with the weight of choice and the silence after command.